welcome back to
Thank
Vino.
you.
It's your second trip.
Thank you. So just a brief reminder on my background, right? So I'm a fourth generation grower. My great-grandfather, my grandfather, and my father all had vineyard in the Suave region of Italy. My father sold a vineyard, ended up in California. We just basically grew grapes, never made any wine until 2008. So since then, we started making wine every year, and we make about 4,000 cases total. So what we have here are 4 of the 7 wines that we make. We're a Burgundy house, so we're in a cooler climate in the Bennett Valley, which is the northwestern corner of the Sonoma Valley. And so we'll take you through the 4 wines, and let's see what you have to say.
I remember really liking them. I'm excited for the reminder.
Okay.
Let's give it a
So
go.
this first one is the Bin 5757. This is an unoaked chard. So one of the challenges when you have a Chablis-styled wine is that sometimes for the American palate, they can be a little bit too acidic, a little bit too linear. So with this wine, we actually have a richness on the palate that you don't normally expect out of an unoaked chard. And we get that by fermenting at very cold temperatures for a very long time. The slower the fermentation process, the more body that develops during that process. So we have a richness here that you typically don't see in an unoaked chard. And it's also a great example of what you can do with Chardonnay if you don't put it in a barrel.
It's unoaked.
Completely unoaked.
Holy smokes, it's got a lot of texture. What's giving it the texture?
So again, what we do is we ferment at a very, very slow speed, and we control the speed of fermentation through that temperature. So we might take 27 to 30 days to ferment this, as opposed to your typical 7 to 10 days. So by fermenting slower, you get more richness. Plus you have the yeast, which is in contact with the wine that whole time. So you're also getting some texture out of being on those yeast lees.
Lees contact or whatever.
That's right. That gives more structure and body to the wine.
I'll say, that's dreamy. I'm a fan already. And you have the 2 different Chardonnays?
Yeah, so the second one is the oaked. So this one is a little bit more balanced than what you might expect out of a California Chardonnay. Typical California Chardonnays are super heavily oaked. This, on the other hand, you can smell and taste the oak, but in the back palate, you get a little bit of a crisp acidity, which helps bring out some of the fruit characteristics. And in doing so, you have a more balanced wine and one that's a little bit more food friendly, a little bit easier to pair. And so there's a certain elegance here that you don't get out of those richer, thicker, buttery Chardonnays that you might expect out of California.
Man, it glides. It just, that's my one word.
Yeah.
What does this Chardonnay taste like? It glides. That's what, I don't know. Wow.
This has become my favorite wine in the stable. I wasn't the biggest fan of Chardonnays from California, but then once we decided how to manage the oak and make a balanced profile, you see that oak can go well with Chardonnay as long as it's not abused.
And similar cold fermentation technique?
Cold fermentation techniques, again, the slower you ferment, the better evolution you get out of the aromatics.
Oh, I don't not want to spit that wine out. I didn't want to spit either one out. They're amazing. Okay. So this is the other
So now we're going to the Pinot
side of your Burgundian operation.
That's right. So this is the Bin 6410. And this is a wine which I'm very proud of because number one, it's 100% Pinot. Typically in the lower end price points, you'll see people blending with Grenache or Syrah to get a little bit more depth and color.
Heaven forbid.
Well, it happens more often than you think.
May it not be ever.
But this is a nice wine because on the nose and on the palate, you're gonna get some fruit. But that fruit also is dissipating by some of the acidity on the back. So it's not a sweet wine, it's something that is actually quite dry. And just like we balance the oak with acidity here, we balance the fruit with acidity here.
This has a lot of noticeable acids. Like my mouth is watering. It's tasting really good. Like it's like a red fruits, but it's also got like black fruits going on there, like a black cherry sort of situation, and lots of acid. My mouth's watering. Wow. Explain the number, the 64.
So both the bins numbers, so back in the early 50s and 60s, winemakers would use bin numbers to associate vintage, variety, oak program. They didn't have computers, so this was their way of looking at a wine and saying, oh, I know what this is representing. And our winemaker, Tony, her father, who passed away recently, but his name was Carl Stockhausen. He was working in Australia with the Lindemans program and came up with his bin nomenclature. Today we have computers to keep track of that, so right now these two represent our vineyard addresses. 5757 Bennett Valley Road is Simpatico Ranch,
Perfect.
where these three wines come off of. And then bin 6410 is 6410 Bennett Valley Road, which is Marina's Vineyard. And that's where the Pinot for this wine comes from.
So if someone likes it, they're like, God, where did I get this wine? Can't remember. I'm gonna Google this address. I'm gonna Google this and get.
Works
get
well with
back
Uber too. When you tell the Uber driver, take me home.
It's like, I'm home. This is awesome. You guys gotta try this wine, especially this Pinot. Wow. Okay. It can't get better, can it?
Well, maybe.
All right. We'll see.
So one thing about Pinots from California that you don't see from Oregon is that they're going to be a little bit richer and deeper in color, more fruit texture, because it's a warmer climate, and that's just the nature of the climate we're dealing with. This one is a little bit more balanced in terms of the fruit and spice notes.
Yeah,
so
it just blasts out of the glass. All the aromas just go boom right out of the top.
It's a little bit more elegant, and it's got a texture which is like velvet. And so I know it's sometimes hard to describe a texture, but it's got a texture which is really soft on the palate, super food friendly, and very balanced. Again, like we try to do with all our wines, keep it very balanced, not let any one component overtake the others.
Oh, wow, more acidity, similar textures to this one in terms of the acid, but
Sure.
the finish, which is funny because it doesn't finish, it just keeps going on and on, so it has a long finish. Holy smokes, this one's better. And I'm glad that we are enjoying the wines and not even talking about price yet, because I don't care. I love them. Whatever the price, don't hurt me though.
No.
We'll talk about prices off camera. All right, don't hurt me though.
The prices are actually quite reasonable for a 4,000 case winery. So we are limited production. We make about 1,500 cases each of these two wines, and then about 500 cases each of these two. And so small production, but all reasonably priced, so that a retail consumer doesn't have to spend a fortune enjoying a good quality glass of wine.
I'm very impressed, Luca. Thank you for letting us take a film clip of this.
Absolutely.
And I remember your visit last time. I'm excited to try to visit the winery.
Absolutely, anytime.
I gotta go see where this. I gotta go see what the others, the seven, what the family's
Yeah.
like.
So we have another Pinot, another Chard, and then a sparkling wine.
I gotta have them.
That's right.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.